Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unbothered Crones. It's Kristen and Lisa here from Luxor and Beverly, Massachusetts. So just wanted to check in. How are you doing, Lisa? What is new and good in
Good.
your world?
Just rolling along summer. It's midsummer here in the Beverlies. We just had our Beverly homecoming, a very old-fashioned celebration of the city and its
Nice.
400 years. And yeah, so it's midsummer. It's all the peaches. It's all of the changes in the air quality. Evenings are slightly shorter, so it's just really embracing the last fruits of the season and enjoying that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I will admit, I miss the ocean. I miss summer in New England is beautiful,
Mm.
and I miss the ocean. I miss the lakes, the mountains. But it's hot here in Luxor, but it has
Perpetual summer in
its
Luxor.
yeah, and it has its own charm. So I'm getting used to the heat, and it's really I think the gift of being here in this. It's been 110 for the most part, plus or minus, for the better part of last month and into this month. And I think there's a way that living in this kind of very elemental space of this intense weather, which is not something I'd ever experienced before. Um, the climate I grew up in, I was used to. This I'm not used to, but it's really kind of brought me back to uh, just this unencumbered space within myself, finding the right rhythm, finding what's essential to take part in, what's the essential part of my day, where am I using my energy. It's really turned my lens inward in a way that normally wouldn't be happening in the summer, because in New England it's social, you're out, you're at the beach, you're doing things, you're taking advantage of that beautiful, radiant solar energy
Hmm.
of the summer. But here, it's kind of forced me inward in a way, and that has been very profound for my unbothered self, because it's really helping me drop any of the drop any of the pretexts or the limitations that I had placed on myself previously. And that is a way to bring up this week's topic, I guess. It's kind of a strange lead in, but bear with me, of self censorship. Um, and, really just, I don't have the energy to maintain a pretext. I don't have the energy, honestly, for forced politeness. I don't have the energy for anything but the unvarnished truth right now, because
Hmm.
it's just too bloody hot. So, and I know from our discussions over the course of the last couple of weeks, um, we both were a bit um, shaken up, disturbed by our last episode, and not for the reasons that people might think. Um, our last episode was, it was focused on the spaces that we're staying in, that we're in too long, the systems that we're attached to, ways that we constrict ourselves. And the irony of that is that I think for both of us, we were so intent on being polite and not offending, and not, being carefully worded in our expression of how we truly feel about living in a world where we're attached to all these platforms and services and information sources, that we got away from just really speaking what's true, what's in our hearts, what's, um, where we feel real spicy about things and when we're angry about things. And for me, that episode, after we finished recording it, I just felt very like that wasn't right. The energy was off. And it really pushed me into an examination of what's behind that. And I realized that in many ways I was, self censoring and, speaking more for an imagined audience than speaking from my heart and the truth of my experience. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for that recognition of what our conversation a couple of weeks ago sparked in me, because it really brought that to the light. Um, was
I
the many ways that we do that so unconsciously, and it's not just us.
I think we had to spend a lot of time together on Signal and on Zoom talking about this after we
Mm,
cut the last episode and published it. I think one of the nuances, just to set this conversation up a little bit better, is we are very, very aware, and I'm just going to call it out for what it is because there's no other way to name it, the MAGA negativity. So there are people in the US that feel they can say anything at any time. They can tell their truth, and it's very disrespectfully delivered. It's very
mhm.
harsh. It can be, obviously, we know, very homophobic, racist, transphobic, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So to combat that kind of energetic that's out there, I think we, in trying to be polite and not be part of this bigger problem, we start to self censor our truth. And so this podcast is definitely not going to land always for everyone. And some of
Hmm.
the truths of what we believe and we think and what our spiritual journeys, which are different, but have brought us into a space where we want to be truthful all the time. And we're always going to try to deliver that with obvious respect, clarity, nothing ferocious in terms of anger, but we can't censor the
Yes.
feeling that we're experiencing these things. Other people are. It's not moving us in a positive direction. Let's talk about it. So I think
Yes.
we were so bound by, like, we don't want to become those people that are just pushing negativity out in the world and
Yeah.
anger. And yet we completely ended up censoring our true thoughts and feelings about the subject.
Yes. Thank you for that. That is a very, I think you bring up a really important point. For me, one of my greatest frustrations and a question that I've been sitting in, you know, for these last couple of weeks is, at what point does comfort become complicity? And this collectively, I think this desire that, we have to maintain civility, to maintain rules of engagement, civil discourse, all of those things that many of us were raised with. That there's, it's part of the social contract. These are the ways that you speak to people. This you can disagree, but you can do it in an intelligent and civilized way. Um, that in the face of, for many people, all of those ideals being kind of tossed out the window and into this world of, I can say whatever the hell I feel like saying whenever I feel like saying it, and I don't care who it hurts because it's my truth or what I believe, whether it's based in reality or fact or whatever. It's the disregard of others that is the problematic piece. And I think for many of us, in our quest to maintain civility, we've stopped speaking with any kind of authority, or we've attempted to water down our language so that everything is palatable to everyone. And I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I am angry as fuck about the world and the way it is right now. And I firmly believe in holy rage. It is what this world needs. It is the time for being quiet and compliant is over. And that means speaking. That means speaking. It doesn't mean attacking people with our speech. It doesn't mean that we lash out at everyone without regard. But it's like the defiance of truth. It's the defiance of your language. It's speaking what's in your heart fully, unvarnished, like full-throated, and bringing that energy to the discussion, to the table. I am always willing to listen to someone whose opinion is different than mine, but not if it's just a barrage of insults and, based on just denigration and humiliation of another human being. And I think that in our quest to be civil, it's like we've gone into it's either one extreme or the other. And we really have to, at least I'll speak for myself. I have to reclaim my voice in voicing my outrage as well as my empathy, my anger, as well as my compassion, because both exist. And when we operate in this binary of, you're either angry and destructive or silent and complicit, where does that leave us? It leaves us right where we are right now, where atrocities are happening around us on a daily basis. And, we're more concerned about like which streaming platform we have access to, or what, the what the schedule looks like this week. For me, I left the United States because I could not live in that paradigm anymore. And I left the US for many reasons, but one of them being that the construct of my daily life there was suffocating me. And I needed a space in which I could breathe and feel the freedom in my physical being to let my voice out, for my voice to be unleashed. And I'm still working on that. I'm still
Well,
deconstructing that past, that
and I think
conditioning of many years.
for those of us who remain stateside and have, our lives here and are bombarded with all of this every day, um, it's more important than ever to speak our truth. And I think the lenses in the US are so clouded right now that when you do speak your truth, specifically as a person who is female facing, it's perceived as negativity, or you're not giving the institution the fair shake, or the platform the fair shake, or capitalism a fair shake, or whatever we choose to discuss. Because when you're stateside, you're so in it, you
Yeah,
don't have the distance, and every lens that is put in front of our eye, I feel like we're at the optometrist. uh you know
yeah,
Fox News or CNN, well, both of them are not being truthful right now. TikTok or Instagram, both of those lenses are very, very dysfunctional right now.
yeah,
You know, Democrats and Republicans, we got
yeah,
problems in both of those camps. So I think the lenses that we look through, we've been so conditioned to look through those in some cases just to survive in
Yeah.
this US of A right now, that we can't step back and say, oof, that felt negative to me, or that doesn't
Mm,
feel comfortable to me. But let me just think about what Kristen and Lisa might be getting at. Let me just play with this a little bit. But
yeah.
we're so trained in and dialed into the systems because we
Yeah.
have to survive. People have to get up and go to
Absolutely.
work every day, make a living, try to pay their bills, try to help family members or friends in need. I mean, none of us are like not trying,
Oh,
but
no,
all of
absolutely.
the, ways that we have to process information, we do self-censor because it's
Yeah,
not safe.
exactly.
Um,
That,
it's not
and that,
always safe to be the truth teller.
it's never safe to be the truth teller.
And
That,
I think I've shared with Kristen, I follow this person who had a big standing on Instagram, has decided to port their audience out to Patreon. Do I know if that's going to be better or not? But whatever, that's irrelevant. The reason they had to remove themselves from Instagram is they were getting threats, so much so that they had to leave their home and move to another home because they were being threatened. And the
mm,
threats were clearly around this person's stance on Gaza and the truth that they feel, not just them, but is like truth by fact. And you can fact check this with international governance, et cetera, et cetera. So that truth cost them a lot.
yeah,
They had to flee their physical home in Ireland to another part of Ireland. They had to flee their
yeah,
audience on Instagram. It's not going to be easy to port that whole audience over to Patreon. But these things, when you speak your truth, they do have consequences.
yeah.
But we're at a juncture where what is the
Well,
cost of the censorship?
right. What is the cost of not speaking our truth? Because we've moved beyond, and it comes back to that question of comfort. It's like, if all that speaking my truth is costing me is my comfort, that is a small price to pay. Because if it's not, if we remain in our comfort and censor ourselves and don't speak out for each other and in support of each other and in support of our shared collective humanity, the cost will be that we lose it. We lose everything because we don't want to give up something. And, it took me moving out of a system to see it even more clearly, how it was shackling me. And my life is very different than most people's. I don't have children. I didn't have a spouse. I didn't have anything truly to tie me to where I was. By design, by divine intervention, who's to say? All I know is I followed what my soul was telling me, and I landed here, and I'm beginning to understand why I'm here. Part of that is to lead a conversation about how and what we speak to. And this is part of it, that when we censor ourselves, when we're not speaking, when we it's like when you're in a group of people and someone makes an off color remark or a racist joke or something, and everybody just kind of uncomfortably laughs it off. We can't afford to do that anymore. It's time to call that shit out. And yet, our conditioning is so pervasive that for many of us, the uncomfortableness of calling that out silences us, and the cycle continues. And I feel like collectively we have a choice. Like we either break that cycle or we let it grind us to a halt. We let it just be the destruction of humanity. And we're watching it in real time. And I, for one, choose to speak and to speak with truth and to be, unleashed. And if it offends people, it offends people. If it's not for everyone, it's not for everyone. But, the energetic cost of carrying the of wearing the coat of censorship that you put on yourself, it's just, it's too much. It's a price that it, for me, I can't pay it anymore. It's too expensive.
Well, I think when we were putting this under the umbrella of spaces that you stay in too long,
Mm,
we know that you can't just get up and shut off all your electronic devices, quit your job, take all your money, put it in the mattress. I mean,
yeah,
going off the grid is not possible for a lot of Americans, especially if you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have home ownership, if but there's small places where you can say, have I stayed here too long? And have I in this space allowed my voice to be completely censored? And I think that was the spirit of what we were trying to get at. And
yeah,
because it shows up so prominently in these systems that we pay to partake of, um,
yeah,
many of them in the social media realm, but they could be the streaming realm. You know,
mhm,
we could cite many places where this shows up. We just chose to talk about it in the thing that everybody seems to use every day, which is the social media platforms, because we have
yeah,
become somewhat tethered to them. So I think we're just saying, what spaces are we in where we can test out our authentic voice and our
yeah,
truth as unvarnished as we can in a space that we may have stayed too long, knowing
yeah,
that maybe our voice being truthful will risk our remaining there, but start with one exercise, one test run, if you will. So
yeah,
you're not blowing up everything at once, just really examining, am I in this club and I really don't want to be? Do I go to this, I don't know, toxic space again and again because it's
yeah,
always something I've done and there's a handful of people in
right.
there I like. I mean, that's what we were getting at with these social media groups or platforms. Do we stay too long because it's just comfortable? We can't make a leap out and use our voice to get us out of there. So that was sort of the
Yeah,
general nature. But because we were trying to not be perceived as
offensive.
being negative, we ended up
Yeah.
being negative and we ended up kind of derailing our own truthful voice.
Well, I think that, there's something to be said for that. We've learned, our discussions over the last 2 weeks have been extraordinary on the insights and
Hmm.
the awarenesses that have come out of it. And I think your point about, looking at the spaces that we occupy, be it in our lives, in our virtual, you know,
Hmm.
social media lives, it's not just about not being in the space. It's not just about leaving the space. It's about what are we doing in the space that we're in. Am I going to this, I don't know, am I going to this networking group that I've always gone to that I don't really get anything out of and they're not really like people that I'm resonating with or that are aligned with my values, that are aligned with my vision and what I'm trying to bring into the world, but I keep going anyway because it's something I'm supposed to do. Because how do I explain my absence? Oh, then I'd have to tell people that I'm not really vibing with this anymore, or there could be judgment on me, or I may lose economic opportunity. And those
Hmm.
things are very real. They're very real concerns. But if we keep hiding behind our concerns, when when and how do we ever change things?
Well, it's uncomfortable to change. We all know that. I'm not a huge change
Yeah.
agent myself. I struggle with change. And I think when you disengage from certain groups, platforms, family dynamics, it's scary. That
Yeah.
change is scary. Not everyone is going to embrace that change. So there's going to be maybe an element of conflict resolution that needs to go along with your exit and your departure and doing it in a graceful kind of way. That's work, that's emotional labor. And I know that everyone
Mhm.
right now is labored to survive.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the system we're in, call it whatever you want, late stage capitalism, make America great again, whatever you call it, it's not working. It's clearly not working. And it's draining each individual because it's kind of like you have to survive.
Yes. And I would, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there because I would say that the system is working exactly as the system is designed to work. It is designed to keep people in a mindset of scarcity of resources, of looking outside for, um, looking for someone to blame. Who's the scapegoat? Who's the enemy? Who's the person that's really the cause of this? It's a system that is designed to divide and conquer. And
Hmm.
we're well past the division phase. We're knee deep in division. And now is the phase where the conquering takes place. And it's more important than ever that we resist that part of it. And that we do through our presence in these spaces. We speak to the things that, if someone is making a transphobic remark in my presence, I call it out. I speak to it. And I didn't necessarily do that in the past because, the system will take care of itself. Well, the system won't because the system wants that, because that is the end result of the predatory capitalistic system that we are in, that is providing extraordinary amounts for very few and precious little for everyone else. And I often think of the frogs in the pot boiling, because I think
Mm.
that's an adage that really is reflective of where we are right now. If unless you're feeling the pain of the boiling, you're not inclined to change anything in your environment until you realize you're boiling, and then there's no way out of the pot. And that is the conundrum that I feel so many people are in right now. And in no way is that diminishing the economic and social fabric and familial responsibilities that people have. I mean, it's not like I moved here to Egypt and, oh, I'm living large. Like, I'm not. I'm starting my own business. I'm on my own here. It's I am living on the tightrope without a net. I'm on the high wire. And for me, that's okay, because that is part of my makeup and my wiring. And I'm here doing what I know I need to be doing. And I know that not everyone has the privilege of that. And I think the more important question is, when we are in these spaces, what are we tolerating because we're censoring ourselves? What are the things that we're allowing to continue because we're too afraid to speak out? Or we don't want to be the one to stir the pot. We don't want to be the one to cause strife. We don't want to be the one to make someone else uncomfortable, to be viewed as impolite.
And fundamentally, Kristen, it's even like deeper. It's the inherited
Mhm.
noise that, I
Yeah.
was raised in the late 60s, early 70s by very immigrant-centric family members who meant well. Um,
Mhm.
there was a saint or a Jesus in every room in my house as an Italian American. So it was like you were constantly censoring. You're a little girl. You're supposed to show up and look a certain way. Don't
Mhm.
speak to us until we speak to you. This was a very 1960 something, 70 something thing.
Oh, oh,
I
girl, right,
often,
right there with you.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I often laugh that, that is so ingrained from the time you
Mhm.
start to learn to speak in my family of origin till I went off to like junior high school. So that's a big stretch of formulative years that you're being told, be a young lady, be polite and proper, speak to your elders with care, show up diminished because this is what they thought was appropriate behavior. Now, for the full spectrum of that, I did learn some amazing, amazing things that I'm
Yeah.
grateful for, but I had to unlearn a lot of
Yes.
that. Don't speak till you're spoken to. Be a young lady, mind your manners. We don't
Mhm.
need to know your every opinion. So getting to your own truth,
Yeah.
for many of us took a lot of work, be that therapeutic or, I remember doing the old program, Kristen, you might remember it was called Landmark Forum when
Oh,
I
yeah.
did it, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
was something else prior to that. So,
Yeah.
I've been in this
Yeah.
work since probably 1999, 2000. So we're talking
Mhm.
26 years
Yeah.
of unlearning what I learned. A lot of, sorry, Catholics, but a lot of Catholic guilt. Like I said, there was a
Mhm.
saint in every room. You didn't say
Yeah.
something because there's Mary, there's Jesus, there's Saint Anthony. Everyone's
And they're
looking in on you.
always watching you.
Yeah.
Always watching. Yeah.
So, 26 years of trying to untangle that upbringing and some of that messaging and that inherited noise in my field.
Absolutely.
Um, to get to that core truth of like, what do I really think and feel? What is really my truth? And how do I express that out in the world in a very respectful way? Because we do not want to become
Yeah. Yeah.
those
That,
who shall remain nameless on this
yes.
podcast.
Because we're being polite. Yeah. It's such a, I think it's such a powerful thing that you've brought up, like that generational and cultural conditioning. Um, I was brought up, I'm the youngest of five kids in a Irish Catholic household, big family, lots of cousins, the whole deal. And my childhood was, I was constantly told, you're to be seen and not heard. I was told, the only reason you survive is because you're funny. Like you get away with the stuff you get away with when you know, because you're funny. And nobody likes a know-it-all. Nobody likes a know-it-all. Nobody likes a know-it-all.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are a kid like me, and I have deep knowing. That is my, in terms of my intuitive gifts, I know I have claircognizance. I just know things. I often don't know how I know them, but I know them. And I know them as
Mm-hmm.
sure as I know I'm on this Zoom call with you. And, that is a very difficult space. And, I know that many, many women who, uh, are intuitive and have grown up with what I would frame as psychic gifts they have this same experience of you are silenced very quickly because it's dangerous to know and not be able to logically explain where that knowing comes from. And I began my, I'll call it my spiritual journey, my deconditioning program in 1987. I had a chronic illness that derailed the plan I had for my life. And as so many people can relate to, that healing crisis became a spiritual awakening. And it set me on this path. And it led me in all the places that I've been. And all of it centers around shedding those constructs, those masks that I became particularly adept at fitting in wherever I am. If I'm with the executive team at the office, I can fit in there and assimilate into that space. If I'm talking to the construction crew on the job site, I can fit into that space and I can do it seamlessly. And that being a chameleon was a form of protection, but it also kept me locked into a paradigm where I was always censoring myself because I spoke to the audience in front of me rather than speaking from my heart. And it has taken me many years to come into that space of the unvarnished truth, which is something that I now teach as part of the the soul awakening course that I teach. That's a core component of it. Is how do we come into that? And I'm thankful for my background in spiritual psychology because that is what gave me the framework to truly deconstruct those old paradigms for myself. Um, and get to this space. And it is work, and it is not comfortable work, but it's the most worthwhile thing I've ever done in my life.
You know, you speak of the knowing, and I know for you, Kristen, you've had an awareness of that from an early age and you were able
Oh,
to work with it. I think to some
mm.
degree, we all have a knowing.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
manifestation of it is different for every
Hmm.
woman, but it's there. And we
Yeah,
were taught, again, by either families of origin or education or religion or whatever, to push that away because it's not an intellectual thing. There wasn't a way to explain it scientifically and logically. And so many of us didn't know we had that
yeah,
access point. And through that, you
yeah,
can then marry that with your truth because it is your
yeah,
truth. The knowing is the truth. So
yeah.
I think a lot of times people need help to uncover that place where it shows up for them
Yes, I
because we all have it inside of us, but we
absolutely.
push it. We don't, we're
It
afraid of it.
yes, our intuition is is one of the gifts that we're born with. We all have it. Um, and the work that we do to remember it, to honor it, and to marry it with our intellect is really that has been my life's work, has been to understand that process and bring that reality to myself and my own world where I operate fully from my intuition and my intellect simultaneously in coherence with each other. And that to me is the foundation of how to speak the unvarnished truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really, really fertile topic that I wish we had more time today to dive into. Um,
There's always next week.
but yes, there's always next week. And in the interest of, honoring everyone's time for this episode, I feel like that is a really uh, it's a great thought to leave with is like, how are you honoring your intuition and
Mm-hmm.
letting it help you, letting it be a guide and a navigation tool to exit some of these spaces where frankly, they've out they've outlived their usefulness. Where, the social media platform that no longer serves you, but you're there because, for whatever reason, all my friends are there. It reminds me of people's birthdays, whatever. I mean, that's basically what I use it for. But how do we let our inner knowing guide us to say, okay, it's time to move on, it's time to make a change, and have the courage of our heart to say, I'm going anyway.
Mm.
I'm going
Hmm.
anyway, whether anyone comes with me or not. And I know from personal experience, I know from packing up my life and moving to another continent in a country where I don't speak the language and I am the minority. I know how hard that is. I know how hard it is to leave the comfortable places, but I also know how critical it is. And the only time is now.
And there are tools to help. I think I'll leave
Absolutely.
this podcast with the invitation for people to
Yeah.
use the comments section or reach out to us individually. Kristen and I have very different tools. Some of our tools are the same. I've been mentored by Kristen. I've had mentors. I think there's like not a recipe card necessarily for how
No,
to deeply get in tune with your intuition, but there's lots of ways to do it. And we're happy to share our experience of
yes,
that, how we kind of use certain things and, just engage with us. If you're shy about putting it here because it's a more public space, just reach out to us. What do the kids say? Slide into our DMs.
I don't know. I assume they still say that, but it is a great point, Lisa. And there are, to me, the key thing is that there is no recipe. If someone's telling you, I have the way to access your intuition, I have the method, I have the system, I have the solution, run away. It is so deeply personal and deeply individual. And it, be your own guru, be your own oracle. Find the people who see you and hear you and listen to you and witness you and go from there.
Mm, beautiful. See you next
All right.
week.
See you then. And in the meantime, stay unbothered.